Shall we begin? Right, we're right on time. It's 2 o'clock. All right. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. This is going to be my first workshop in or near Indy. So I'm grateful that we connected and you invited me to give this workshop. um, Housekeeping first. So everybody got a plain sheet of paper. So what you do is you take it, you fold it in half. So you didn't know this was an origami class, right? So you just fold it in half and then you fold it one more time this way. And you're going to save some space to write certain things on it. Okay. And what I'm going to do is pass these thick markers. Why don't you grab one of these? Well, you have you have that, so you can take that. This is so that when we write something, we can show it and others can see. Don't take the yellow, take the brown one. There we go. So what to expect now? So I'm here for the next 3 hours. I know we said the workshop is going to be 2. Since you all are in teacher training, I've left some extra time because I'm sure there would be a lot of questions and I'm here to answer those. And of course, I'll give you my email address as well. If you need to reach out, even after this is done, I'll be happy to talk to you. Now, we're talking about breath and we're talking about pranayama. It's a lifelong practice. And the task now is, how do I leave here today giving you something to practice, to think about, to build. And this is why I always say these workshops are merely an introduction. Okay? It's to get you started on the path and then see what you want to do with it. If this is really your calling, you will pick this up, you will build on it, you will walk with it. If not, it at least gives you, empowers you with the right tools, with the right knowledge, so that when you are teaching some of these techniques, you know what you're doing. Okay? I tend to marry ancient wisdom and modern science together. So it doesn't feel like this is just an esoteric practice where certain things are written in the book and I'm teaching you what's written in the book. In fact, I'm going to go against what has been written in a lot of the yoga literature. And we can have a discussion around it. Why I think some of the things that have been written about pranayama has been misinterpreted, and I say that with humility. Yes, of course, a lot of things are accurate, but there are certain very fundamental assumptions that we think what pranayama is, but in fact, it's something else. And what that something else is, I hope to tell you in this workshop. So, very foundational. We're not going to talk about any advanced pranayama techniques. We just talk about one single pranayama today. That's all, which is a 3-part breathing. And I want to leave here with the entire framework, the building blocks for you to be able to practice and teach a 3-part breathwork. Clear? Okay. So you're not just going to be sitting, so we'll move a little bit. I'll do a lot of talking in the initial part to set the foundation. And then I'm going to start to give you the tools so that we can build that 3-part practice towards the end. So if nothing, today, when you leave out of here, you know what a 3-part breath is. Clear? Okay. So this is my 10th year teaching this foundational workshop. And I tailor it every single time I take it somewhere. I throw in something new, I take something out. So today you would have got another handout that Ali printed. And that's something that we're going to talk about. Because this is a yoga teacher training program, I am for the first time teaching that framework that you see in front of you. Okay. Because that's going to really give you the essence of where is this practice coming from? What is the higher purpose to learning the power of breath? That's what's going to be covered in that handout. Okay. Having said that, I start with a little measurement. So we'll do a little grounding exercise and we'll do a little self-assessment here. So what I would want you to do is wherever you're sitting, you just sit as you are. Don't change your posture for the next minute or two. Okay. And what I would need is a timer. So I would need that phone that you're shooting with so that I can put a 60-second timer on it because mine is recording. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Now, this is a little calibration exercise. We're going to measure how many breaths a minute are we breathing at. Now, when I say that, immediately you're going to recognize your breathing, how you're breathing, and you're going to start to change it. It's very hard to do. So take a moment to just recognize the way you're breathing without changing it. Just take a moment. Notice how you're breathing and try to just stick with that breath without changing it. Okay? And be with it. Okay? And all we're going to do is, I'm going to put a timer for a minute, and you're going to count how many breaths are you taking in 1 minute. One breath, as you all know, is an in-breath and an out-breath. So in-breath, out-breath, 1. In-breath, out-breath, 2. You're just going to count your breath without touching it, without changing it. The way you're breathing it, just breathe. Everybody ready? So everybody exhale out. Don't change the breath. And here we go. Begin. And stop. Everybody has a number. Take that piece of paper and write it in big, bold, what your number is so that everybody can see that. All right. Let's see. 16. I see 11, 12, 14, 16, 20. Oh, we are pretty close, right? So we're between 11 and 16 breaths. All right. So this is where we are in just a normal, non-modulated breathing. And hopefully everybody was able to keep that pace. Okay. So this is generally how we breathe. Anywhere between, I'd say, 10 to 20 breaths a minute is our practice. Now, why is this work important? So the simplest way that I teach this is, look, your breath is the language through which your body, your mind, and your emotions communicate with each other. Okay? What do I mean by that? So let's start. I'm going to start backwards. I'm going to start with emotions. Underneath every emotion, there is a breathing pattern. What do I mean by that? Think about somebody being anxious. We know what that breathing pattern of anxiousness is. When somebody laughs, there's a breathing pattern underneath it. Laughter is always mouth breathing. Have you ever seen anybody laughing in through the nose? No, it's weird, right? It's strange, but laughter is always through the mouth. Anxiety is a shallow, fast breathing. Sorrow, sadness, it's upper body breath through the mouth, right? When somebody's crying, that emotions are in the top of the lungs, and that's how we are breathing. So if you recognize every single emotion of fear, of anxiety, of happiness, of joy, or sorrow, everything has a particular breath work, a breathing pattern underneath it. And this is what's so powerful, because when you're experiencing certain emotion, you're breathing certain way. You don't recognize it. You consciously don't think about it. Yet it's so powerful, because now if you want to change that emotion, all you need to do is change the breath. It's a closed loop system. So in order for you to come out of that, what do we tell somebody going through a panic attack? Breathe. And don't we tell them how to breathe, right? This is what NLP teaches us. Neuro-linguistic programming is basically you emulate. You want to look into somebody's eyes having a panic attack and you say, hey, breathe with me, right? You start to breathe with them. You start to experience that emotional regulation through the breath. Right? So that's what I mean when I say breath is the language through which a body, mind, and emotions communicate. Let's think about neurologically, like mental states of breathing. So if you look at our nervous system, there are two parts of the nervous system. One is the sympathetic nervous system, another one is the parasympathetic nervous system. In easy language, it's your rest and digest response and your anxiety response, right? And breath is a direct regulator of that. I just gave you the example. When somebody is having a panic attack, what part of the nervous system are they experiencing? It's a sympathetic nervous system that they're experiencing. And what regulates that? Well, your breathing regulates that, because you're in that panic mode and your breath is fast. And that is a direct accelerator to the sympathetic nervous system. How do you come out of that? You take longer exhalations, right? You take a deep breath in and you exhale for twice as long. And what does that do? That shifts you from the panic response, the sympathetic nervous system, to the parasympathetic nervous system, right? So that's really the direct control of your breath to what? Your mental states, your neurological states. Let's talk about body. It's very fundamental. If you don't breathe, we don't live. Right? Breath is that foundational building block of life. You all know, like, we can live for days without food, weeks without food, days without water, but hardly a few minutes without breath. Okay? And what that breath does. Now, this is another important distinguishing factor. Write two words on your, flip the paper, write two words. One is air. Underneath it, write breath. Okay. Now, think about this. Just in contemplation, I want you to think throughout this workshop. What is breath and what is air? Okay. Because the air that we breathe carries the atmospheric gases into our lungs. And one of the most essential ones, but two of the most essential ones are oxygen and carbon dioxide. Right? So physiologically, what that air that we breathe in is doing is it's taking that oxygen to the cellular machinery inside the body, where the mitochondria in the cell is going to consume that oxygen, burn it to produce the fuel. So this is called the ATP molecules, which are the currency of energy within the body. Everything that we do requires that energy. And oxygen is the fuel for burning the glucose, the fats, to convert them into energy. Okay. So it wouldn't happen unless we are breathing. Okay. And from a athletic performance point of view, Olympic athletes, half a percentage of advantage separates somebody from winning versus losing. That's how narrow those margins are. And they're always thinking about how do you optimize the body to perform at its peak. And even the way that somebody breathes, especially athletes, the way that they're breathing can separate them from being a winner and getting to the podium and not making it there. So breathing is a very essential element to optimizing performance as well. So this really sets up the foundation on why this work is so important, right? It's, as I'm mentioning, right, at the intersection of your body, mind, and emotions is breath. One final element to this is, which will come with that handout, breath is your direct communication to the spirit. Okay? So air becomes breath. And the difference between the two is your breath carries a spiritual energy along with the air. So if there were ever an equation to this, it's air plus spirit equals breath. Right? Got it? All right. We come to that. So what is then pranayama? What is breath work? Is the whole art of modulating the way that we breathe becomes pranayama, becomes breath work. And there are two verses, and there are two different types of breath work. And this is important to understand because ancient breath work is something like this. You inhale, you consciously retain the air or the breath. Let me correct that. You breathe in, you retain the breath, air plus the spiritual energy. You exhale and you retain after you exhale. Okay? And that's very clearly articulated in various texts that this is the ancient science of pranayama. Because pranayama has a inhalation, exhalation, and retention. Okay? Now, there's a lot of modern breathwork techniques too, and those as well have a ancient origin. Especially, I'm sure people are familiar with like Wim Hof breathing. That's a very popular modern day breathwork, and that's based out of a Tumo meditation. It's a Tibetan Buddhist meditation, breath meditation practice. And what that practice is, it's called conscious connected breathing. And the verse really here says that your inhalation is offered into the exhalation, and the exhalation is offered into the inhalation. It's like a ritual that you're offering your in breath to the out breath, and you're offering your out breath to the in breath. And this is where the ancient science of, or I'd say the modern science of an ancient breathwork practice called conscious connected breathing, also called conscious energy breathing, comes into existence. And this breathing style has, what is the difference between the two? Retention, right? This one doesn't have retention. That you're continuously breathing, okay? And I'm going to give you a little taste of that and what is the difference between this breathing versus that breathing through just a simple example. So this exercise is called 20 connected breaths. And what you do is you take 4 normal but connected breaths, meaning you inhale, you exhale, you inhale, you exhale. And on the 5th one, you take a deep inhale and then you exhale out. Okay? And then we repeat that again 4 times. And I want you to notice what happens. So I'm going to do 1 round and then I'm going to ask you to join me after that 1 round. Okay? Ready? Here's how it's going to happen. So I'm going to take 4 shallow connected breaths and 5th one would be a deep breath. Okay? Here it is. One more. Stop. Immediately notice what's happening. What do you feel? Lightheaded. Did you say hot? Yeah. Hot, lightheaded. You feel like the hairs on your skin are rising up. You get goosebumps, right? Flushed. You see your face is red, right? All right. What just happened? You just did what? A total of 20 breaths. It took you hardly less than a minute to do that, but you feel that surge of energy, right? So that's the power of this conscious connected breathing. Okay? It gets you energized, it gets you warm, it gets you lightheaded. Now you can't walk around. Like if you do this for like 10 minutes, you just can't get up and walk around because you're going to be dizzy, right? So what has happened? Why am I telling you all this? Because there's a surge of modern breath work that's taking place now, which is based on this breathing technique. Now imagine breathing like this for anywhere between 20 minutes to 2 hours. And it's a powerful, it's a potent mechanism that psychologists, psychotherapists are using to help their patient overcome deep trauma, deep level of anxiety. And this breathing technique is always done with an expert guidance. It's a one-on-one breathing technique where you have a breather and a sitter, and you are paying total attention for 2 to 3 hours on the person that's breathing. So it's a very potent mechanism through which people are experiencing that LSD-like phenomena. And this actually was the inception because back in the 60s and 70s, when there was a war on LSD, the people who were seriously working, like the therapists, the physicians, the scientists who were working with LSD, realized its potent effect. And since that was not available to them, one gentleman in particular, actually two people in particular, one, a gentleman by the name of Stanislav Graf. He's a Czech psychiatrist. He's an MD trained in psychiatry who was working at the Maryland Psychiatric Clinic, working with LSD, and all of a sudden he did not have that tool available to him to help his patients. And he was looking for alternate modalities through which he could initiate those LSD-like phenomena in his patient. And he and his wife, Christina Graf, came across conscious connected breathing. And they call this technique now holotropic breathwork. So their modality is called holotropic breathwork. During a similar time, there's another gentleman by the name of Leonard Orr who had his own spontaneous experience of rebirthing, like literally experiencing his own birth through his mother's womb. He lived that. And the breath work that he was practicing at that time was conscious connected breathing. So he came across this lineage. So both of them actually sort of discovered the same lineage of breathing technique. One called it holotropic breath work, and Leonard called it rebirthing breathwork. So those two became the foundations of every single modern breathwork style that you see are based out of those two techniques, which are going back to the conscious connected breathing, which goes back to a lot of verses in the Upanishads and the Gita, and some of the verses in the Vedas. All right, question.
When you say he experienced this rebirth, do you mean he was experiencing the memory or he like experiencing what's up that?
So both. So he was initially, and I I don't want to be quoted incorrectly, but when I say rebirth, it could be both. He was experiencing his um, own physical birth when he came out of his mother's womb, and also in many of these. So these are repetitive practices, by the way. Every time you go into the practice, you uncover something new. So it can also be the death rebirth cycle that somebody can experience.
So he basically
he is tapping into very deep states of subconscious memories that he has stored. Memories that modern science does not believe we have any ability to access. Okay. So there's some very deep exploration work that has been done on this, which is tapping into the universal unconscious or subconscious, also tapping into a lot of ancient shamanic sort of ritualistic practices which we have lost the memory of, but we have the ability to get back to it. So pranayama is a more gentle version of it, because in pranayama, what is critical is that energetic state, that life force that you need to draw. What I said was breath equals air plus spirit. Now, spirit can be interpreted in many different ways. Like one of the interpretation of the spirit itself could be that higher energy, that energy that created us and the universe itself, right? So you have every single breath you take, you have the ability to draw in that spiritual energy as well. And pranayama really emphasizes that. So everything is going to lead up to a higher state of consciousness. And this is where I want to explain to you, and this is for the first time. So you guys are experiencing this for the very first time, on the whole origin of the universe, right? And the physics is asking this question all the time. How does this creation came into existence? And the Upanishads and the Vedas have, which is the ancient literature coming out of the Indian subcontinent, have very beautifully captured this. And nobody knows how they knew this. Perhaps through very deep contemplative practices where they were experiencing some of these transpersonal subconscious states that they were tapping into, even the existence and the origin of the universe. So how does this come about? So this part is really my exploration of what the Upanishads have described about the origin of everything that there is. So just entertain me for the next 15 minutes, because I think this is new, this is missing. And what I intend to do is try to explain to you how breath is connected to all this. Okay? So the very first thing that we need to understand is everything started from nothing. Okay? In yoga, you talk about two different entities, two different beings or energies. You talk about Shiva, and you talk about his counterpart, which is Shakti. Right? So you talk about the masculine and the feminine, who are the co-creators of this creation. And this line of thinking goes in many different religious practices, spiritual practices as well, right? So we talk about the masculine and the feminine. We talk about the yin and the yang, right? So first of all, everything began. So if this line really partitions between the unmanifested and the manifested, remember that everything started from the absolute, the unmanifested. Shiva himself is described as that which is not. He's described as, there's a term, there's a Sanskrit word nirakara. Nirakara means formless. So from the formless came the form. Now physics tells us there was a cosmic event billions of years ago that led to the creation of the galaxies. We call that, previously it was called Big Bang, now it's called the singularity in the time and space, which actually started. It was the seed that started everything. In the Vedas, it's called Vak. And Vak itself means the first word. Even in the Bible, if you go to Genesis, I don't know which chapter it was, but I'm going to be paraphrasing it, right? Oh, it is written here, right? It is Genesis 2:7, right? It says, the Lord formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. Right? So there is a singularity, there is a cosmic event at which the origin of the cosmos started. So that's called a walk. Now, that one, physics tells us that all of this creation was within the size of an atom. It's unbelievable. You can't even believe that. Your logical mind cannot even fathom to think about how can this entire universe be the size of an atom or even less than an atom and be created from that. But that's what physics is telling us, right? And that's what the Upanishads tell us, that there was this event which started everything. That's called a walk. That walk reverberated, the first sound reverberated. So that's called nada, right? Nada still means the reverberation of the sound. Okay. From there came the cosmic motherly energy of Shakti. Okay. So from Shiva, from the absolute, came the energy Shakti. Now, Shakti in itself then manifested into 4 different forms: the Vijnana, the Chitta, Prana, and Ananda. Let me explain to you what that is. Because these words should ring a bell in your mind. A lot of your yoga literature talks about this, right? Even the first verse in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra has the word chitta in it, right? Yoga is what? Chitta vritti nirodha, right? So that word actually appears right in the very first word of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So Vijnana is universal intellect. We talk about self-intellect. Shakti formed into a universal intelligence. Okay? That universal intelligence has to be housed somewhere. We call our brain our mind, right? There's a universal mind. Chitta is the universal mind. Prana is the universal spirit, the universal energy. And Ananda is what? Universal bliss. The highest form, I think this is actually describe universal bliss. I would say universal love. This wouldn't have started without that. The creation wouldn't have come into existence without the purest, the highest form of love. Okay? So Shakti manifested into 4 different forms now: universal intellect, universal mind, universal energy, and universal love. Okay? These energy systems were beautifully captured in 5 Mahabhutas, which are called tattvas. Stay with me. Okay? Because we are going from a singularity to something unimaginable, but then it will come back to a form. So we're going from formless to a form. Okay? So the 5 Mahabhutas are the 5 elements. What are the 5 elements? It's the Akasha, Vayu, Tejas, Apas, and Prithvi. So it's space, air, fire, water, and earth. Okay? And these are layered in such a way. So if you go with physics, they go from the most subtle to the most dense. And as you go, these are actually in an order, because every single, this is the most subtle form, the most spacious, if there is. Like space itself is infinite, right? So going from infinite, space now condensed to a little bit more grosser matter would become air. Air further condensed would become fire. Fire further condensed will become water. And then finally is the earth. Every single element down the line, starting from Akash, starting from space, has that preceding element into it. What I mean by it, air has air plus space. Fire has fire, air, space. Water has last word. and the grossest one, Prithvi, which is what we are made of. Our body is a earthy matter, right? We are made up of the 5 elements. When we leave this body, the 5 elements will just go dissolve in the universal 5 elements, which are these. Okay. Now, in our spiritual body, where are these elements situated? You know the concept of chakras now, right? So that's not physical. Chakras are not present in our physical body. Chakras are a energetic, spiritual concept. Okay, so you can't dissect and you can't find the chakras. It's more of your belief system. First of all, you need to believe in those energy centers, and secondly, you just need to understand how to connect with them. But each one of these elements are then connected to your subtle bodies through these energy centers. So space resides in throat, Vishuddhi. Okay. Air, appropriately, is our heart center, is our lungs. Right? Physically also makes a lot of sense, right? Fire is Manipuraka. The word itself says Manipur. Mani means something which is glowing and shining and burning. And what that is your digestive heat, Manipuraka. Water is Apas, it's Swadhisthana, right? And then finally, the grossest one is earth, which is what? Our root. Okay. So universal concepts coming into embodiment now. All right. So up to this point, you understand. Now, understand this concept as well, that these chakras are also categorized into 3 bindus. What are bindus? Bindus are actually say mahabindus. Bindus are subtle points. Mahabindus are those large celestial objects in our solar system that are the most potent source of prana, energy. And those 3 are celestial system are what? Moon, sun, and earth. So you can draw this cosmic energy, cosmic Shakti, through any one of these 3 Mahabindus, 3 concentrated sources of energy. Okay. And then there are practices. So remember, can you guess what age we are in right now based on, are we earth people, sun people, or moon people right today? Any guesses? What is the human race? Which, from an evolutionary point of view, where are we on the cosmic cycle? Where are we drawing our energy from? Are we drawing our energy from Earth, Sun, or Moon right now? We're actually in a transition phase to Moon. Why do I say that? Because we are technologically there. We are using, from a bodily point of view, we are using this more than anything right now. Right? Because we are inventing, we are on such a fast evolutionary path that we have left the sun, which is the heart and the fire, and we have come to we are heady people now. We are most of the time in our head. We are drawing most of our energy through the moon right now. Look at the diagnosis of autism and ADHD right now. If you reflect back 50 years back, you wouldn't see this much clinical diagnosis. And maybe this is on record, going on video now, so somebody will come and say, oh, because we have new diagnostic criteria and new scales, and we are more aware, and we have. No, yes, that is true. But also, we have become moon people. We are connected to the cycles of the moon so powerfully. And the moon can pull the oceans on this planet. So it can influence your body and your mind so powerfully. When it has so much energy that it can pull the oceans, it can easily pull your mental states. So we are in the phase, we are transitioning now from the sun phase. We are into, I would say, early or very early moon stages in our evolutionary cycle. Okay. All right. So these are the three concentrated sources of energy. Now, here's what's beautiful about this. In our meditations, what are we trying to connect with? We're trying to get to the ultimate state. We're trying to connect to the nothingness, to the absolute, because that's where you can, everything begins there. So these practices, and understand this actually captures the entire lineage of yoga. Every form of yoga is captured here. Every single meditation practice, somehow or the other, is captured right here. If we talk about breath, you have a way to connect with the tool of breath to get to the ultimate source of everything. Okay? So this, in the Vedas, this is the exhale, the cosmic exhale. So if you believe in God, when God exhaled, this is how the creation started. And this is the inhale. What happens when there is a cosmic inhale? Right? So exactly, right? All of this will be consumed. So all that Shakti, all that material, all that intellect, the universal mind, the universal energy, the universal bliss, everything is going to be sucked back in to that singularity. Okay? So universe began, the Vedas said the universe began with a cosmic exhale. Even here, right? Genesis 2:7 says this is an exhalation. The Lord breathed into his nostrils. So the Lord exhaled, you inhaled, right? So they're so connected. If you look deeply into all of these things, there's a single source of all of this knowledge. So universe began with an exhalation, a cosmic exhalation. We will dissolve back with a cosmic inhalation, okay, into a black hole and that energy. Now, another thing is the Vedas talk about, or Marvel talks about multiverse. The Vedas talk about multiverse much before that. And the reason for that is I just showed you on this scale a single event. But why can't there be multiple of these dots? And why can't this be infinite? Because this is just one event that created this universe. There could be a similar event that would have created a parallel universe somewhere else. That's another exhalation. Oh, by the way, when that exhalation is taking place, there's an inhalation somewhere taking place where one universe is completely getting absorbed back into the singularity, absorbed back into the absolute. So it's a dance between that absolute, the unmanifested, and the manifested. The unmanifested into the manifested, and the manifested goes back into the unmanifested. So the cycle of the inhalation and the exhalation, the cosmic inhalation and the cosmic exhalation continues to happen. So begin to just grasp now every breath that you take is that your inhalation is that cosmic exhalation. And your exhalation will become somewhere a cosmic inhalation. So it's so in tune with the cycles of the universe. And this is just my hypothesis. This is how the ancient seers and the thinkers were actually able to create these detailed charts, because they didn't have measurement tools. It was all contemplative. It was all being able to connect through these subtle energies. Now, how do you connect with the universe intellect? Our body can only perceive things that we can perceive through our five senses. That's all. That is it, right? And I'm going to give you a demonstration right now of that. that how do you connect with the unmanifested? But breath becomes a tool, meditation becomes a tool, prayer becomes a tool, where it's much of a contemplative practice. As these energies are going to come to you. I was just on my way, I was listening to a book actually by Stanislav Grof. And he's talking about, he took all the major scientific minds, starting from Newton all the way to Tesla, to even Steve Jobs. And he was beautifully able to articulate that all of these people who have done these major breakthroughs, that knowledge came to them either in their dream while they were napping, or all of a sudden they had an epiphany. They had a download through which they were able to actually grab a concept, and then so everything is there in the universal intellect. How do you tap into the universal intellect is the question. All right, so here's my proof to you. Everybody, stand up, create a circle, okay, and we'll let our camera record this. So come this way, create a circle, and go behind. So everybody just make sure that you are able to create a circle, and I'm going to be in the middle. Okay. All right. You want to join?
No, we're so happy. Happy.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you need to come close so that you guys can hold each other's hand. All right. Create a big circle. See how big can you make that circle go. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's big enough. That's big enough. All right. So we're talking about how do you tap into the unmanifested? How do you tap into things that are energetic? Right? Because we are, as I already mentioned to you, we perceive things through our five senses. And you all know what those five senses are. So here's a simple demonstration that I do. And what you two are going to do is, one of you is just going to hold the ball like that with two fingers, and then hold it with, just touch this, hold it. So just hold, and then touch that, no, touch that metal. Hold on. Just grab it. Hold on. No, you gave it away. Hold it down here, and then touch with two like that, and then hold just with your index finger, touch that. All right. Now what you're going to do is, you're just going to touch that lid. All right. That's it. Okay. Now, make sure you don't touch your finger. Okay. Here we go. Can somebody break the connection here? Touch again. Okay. Break somewhere else. All right. Just touch your finger, index finger, to whoop. Let it go. Whoop. Again. Whoop. There you go. Right? So what's happening here? Okay, you can leave it, let it go. So what's happening there, right? Right.
We're able to feel that energy.
So it's a pretty simple science experiment where there's a very small battery inside it. And what you're doing is, when you connect each other's hand, you're letting those electrons pass actually through your bodies and complete the circuit, because you're conductors of energy. The human body is a perfect conductor of energy. Okay. But did you guys feel anything through your body?
Not really.
No, right? You did not feel that. It was such a subtle form of energy, but you all became the perfect device, the perfect channel, the perfect container for that energy to start from one, go all the way, and then complete that circuit. So you created, this is a tool. There is an energy there that is to be discovered. And what you did was, you provided it the tool, you provided the means. The means was what? You connecting with each other. Now, start thinking from a broader context. Everything that we talked about to get to the unmanifested, all you need to find out is, what is the path? What is the tool to get there? And there are different lineages which teach different technologies. And these are all ancient technologies for you to tap into that. All right, universal source. So get back onto your seats. And I'll take that. Yeah, you can put it back. Make sense? Yeah? Okay. All right. How are we doing on time? Great. So we talked a little bit about, hey, why this work is important. We connected it to a broader sense of where this fits, what breathwork and pranayama is. Okay. Now, the question really becomes, how do you practice it? All right. So this is where we're going to begin to now give you the tools that you need to have to be able to start to work with it. Okay? Now, the very first tool that you need to be aware of, I just said it, it's awareness. The most powerful practice, if there is one, is just a subtle art of awareness. When you walk into a yoga class, what do we often tell our students? Become aware of your breath, right? Very naturally come to us. And everybody has a different interpretation of that. So what does awareness of breath mean? So we're going to do an exercise now because I want you to completely begin to understand what does breath awareness mean and how to practice it. All right. So as you're sitting here with your eyes open or your eyes closed, my instruction to you is become aware of the breath. So do a little mental exercise now where you begin to become aware of your breath and tell me, just mentally make a note of what all qualities can you pick up. All right. Shout it out. Volume. So that means how deep, how much were you breathing? Okay. Volume, temperature. Very good. Moisture. Moisture in the air. Okay. Nice. Very good. What else?
A good extension of the feet with other sensations.
You guys are good. You guys are very aware of your breathing. Very good. What else?
What do we then have to ask the students? And we ask them the qualities of what? Smooth, not for fun. Where's it landing? Is it upper, low?
Yeah, so I think this is a very good group to talk about this because you guys are already quite advanced into understanding these things. Because what I experience most of the time is people don't realize that one nostril is more open than the other. And this happens all the time. Like there's a nostril dominance that changes, by the way, but anywhere between 20 minutes to like 3 hours, you will see a switch between a right nostril dominance versus a left nostril dominance. Okay, so I think a lot of you picked up on these subtle cues. I'm going to do a little meditation now for you to build on it and see if something new comes up. Okay, everyone ready? All right. Comfortable seat anywhere you want to sit, or you want to lay back down. That's fine too. So gently begin to close your eyes. And I want you to bring your awareness, first of all, at the tips of the nostrils. And begin to notice, focus your awareness to the temperature of the air at the tips of the nostrils. Let's begin there. So as you breathe in, notice the coolness. As you breathe out, notice the warmness. There, begin to notice the slight sensation of pressure. As you breathe in, notice the pressure in the inner walls of the nostrils. And as you breathe out, notice the pressure at the tips of the nostrils. Now begin to notice whether one nostril is more open than the other. As you continue to breathe, notice if you can pick up any sense of smell or moisture. Next, as you breathe in, follow that coolness of the incoming breath and see how deep through the nasal passage can you sense that coolness. As you continue to breathe with that in breath, notice how deep can you sense the presence of the breath. Can you sense the breath filling into your sinuses? Below the eyes, between the eyebrows, behind the cheeks. Continuing this journey of awareness, can you sense the breath behind the throat? It's all the way behind the upper mandible, down behind the throat. Can you sense the breath in your trachea, which is your windpipe? From there, sense the breath branching into two halves that makes up your right lung and the left lung. As you breathe, can you notice your chest expanding? Notice your rib cage rising, your shoulder blades moving apart. Begin to sense your belly moving out as you breathe in. Now become aware of this entire mechanism of breathing from the tips of your nostrils all the way to your diaphragm. Pay attention to the heartbeat as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Continue to breathe. With your eyes closed, we're going to do a switch of the breath. I want you to open your mouth now. All of you have been breathing through the nose. And I want you to become a mouth breather now. So do the same, but now breathe through the mouth and be in inquiry, be in awareness of what's now happening as you breathe through the mouth. All right. Slowly begin to switch back to the nasal breathing. You just finished mouth breathing. Go back to nasal breathing and again in inquiry, figure out what's happening as you switch from mouth breathing to nasal breathing. All right, gently begin to come out of that practice. Okay, we've been sitting for a while, so why don't we stand and then discuss, right? So this is that mini discussion that we'll have on practicing. So that's a breath meditation. That's a breath awareness meditation for you to be in inquiry, which you already had pointed out a lot of those subtleties of the breathing. So you have been working with breath. You know the subtleties of the breath. What else showed up during that practice? Let's talk about that. Anywhere during that practice, feel free. With mouth breathing? So you have to swallow, right? Notice you take a few breaths and you just swallow, and then your lips become dry and your throat becomes parched, and you're just doing that. So, number one rule of breathing and breath practices is always breathing through the nose. Physiologically, I mean, there's a reason why we have two nostrils and a mouth, right? Otherwise, evolution didn't have to give us this if you just needed, one of it. But breathing through the nose is the most beneficial because of obvious reasons. It filters the air, moistens and warms the air. Nitric oxide production in nasal sinuses, a lot of dilation of the blood vessels, lowering of the blood pressure happens through the nose breathing. And it's all taken away if you breathe through the mouth. And it creates more anxiousness because remember we talked about anxious breathing, it's like, it's that breath, right? There's a place for it when you are consciously working with the mouth breathing to overcome emotions. There are practices which will do it. But there's a difference between conscious and unconscious breathing through the mouth. Conscious breathing is to your benefit, unconscious breathing is just going to fuel that anxiety more and more. Okay, great. What else?
Yes, difference in temperature. Like,
I feel like they're taking more energy, more of the energy breathing through my nose. I get to my mouth, and the air is more colder.
Yeah, right. And that's now imagine doing that in a cold environment. Not good, right? And this is why even, I mean, people who are living in sub-zero temperature, like nasal breathing is really critical. We don't talk about dehydration in cold environment, but mouth breathing creates an aggressive form of dehydration in cold environment because you're losing all the water out of your body because that moisture keeps leaving. And with nasal breathing, you can suppress that. Okay. What else?
I just get to feel the pressure.
In the abdominal nerves, in the walls. I never paid attention to that pressure outside of what side is done, but in general, when you're breathing out, I noticed the breath kind of hits the tip of my
Yep. Right. So for in breath, it's much more deep because you can sense that pressure throughout the walls of the nasal channel. Now, as you do more and more practice, you actually start experiencing the breath in the sinuses, which is what I'm very interested in. Anybody was able to actually experience the breath deep inside the sinus passages, especially like eyebrows and between the eyebrows and underneath the eyes. Yeah, so it's a very like, and of course you have to have open sinuses for that. If you're congested, then it's very challenging to experience it. But there's a lot of space, by the way, for breath in our skull, in our facial bones. So imagine the size of like a billiard ball. That's the amount of empty space that is created collectively through the sinuses. So one more advantage of breathing through the nose is because the breath is slowed down because of the pressure that's created. There are these seashell kind of structures inside our nose, which actually rotates the breath. It slows us down, gives us a lot of surface area for it to moisten and warm up and do all the good things like filtering it with all the mucus that we have. So capturing all the dirt and dust. So a lot of important features that happen. And so when you go into like these meditative practices, you start to feel different parts of the breath and you start to feel it inside your facial bones and in your sinuses as well. Okay. Anything else? How about the feeling of going from infinite to finite and then finite back to like infinite? Like, so you go from vast space to the confined space. So the breath becomes the body. It takes the shape of the body. And then from the body, it becomes the universe again. Right? It goes back to the theme that I've been talking about. Right? So from the unmanifested to the manifested, and when you exit it out, you go from manifested to the unmanifested. So there's this dance between finite and infinite that takes place. Okay. All right. Since I have you standing, anything else, by the way? Good. So that's the first pillar, which is the pillar of awareness. Now I want you to experience different parts of the breath. So since you're already standing, I'm going to have you experience the back breathing first. So everybody will come to a forward fold. So bend your knees, come to a forward fold, and grab your opposite elbows. And there's a space behind between your shoulder blades. I'm going to come and touch 2 points on your back. If you are not okay with it, just nod your head. Just nod your head if you don't want me to touch your back. 2 points. Okay, everybody's fine. Okay. So I'm going to come around and I'm going to touch 2 points on your back, and I want you to breathe into those 2 points. I want you to experience breathing in that space. So when you breathe between these 2 points, you're going to experience what it feels like to breathe into your back. So when you breathe there, you will begin to open your shoulder blades. So your shoulder blades are going to expand. And when you breathe out, they're going to come back in. So notice that in these kind of postures like forward folds, you're going to be able to experience that back breathing. Child's pose as well. All right. Slowly begin to rise back up. Take your time, take your time, take your time. There's a lot of space in the back, by the way, to breathe, which is not easily accessible, but in forward fold, you can do it. Now you can do the same. I want you to experience, come to a child's pose now and do the same. Keep your elbows relaxed in your child's pose. And same 2 spots. I'm not going to come and touch them this time. You just know where those 2 spots are. So I want you to begin to invite the breath between those 2 spots. Notice this is the foundation, right? We became with awareness. Once you become aware, then you can actually channel the breath to any part that you desire. So right now, that is the upper back. Now, begin to walk your hands to the right. And when you do that, you're going to experience the stretch on the left side. Now, as you breathe in, I invite you to bring that breath into your left shoulder blade, left lung, all the way down to your left hip. So now experience the breath in the left side of the body. And if you take a nice, slow, deep breath in, you're going to notice the stretch all the way from the left pinky finger to the left hip crease. So now you're experiencing the side breathing. First, you experience the back breath. This is the side breath. Now walk your hands to the other side, to the left. And same thing, consciously drawing that breath in. And when you do that, You're going to notice the expansion happening on the right side. Noticing the breath from the tip of the right pinky finger all the way to your right hip crease. All right, slowly we're going to come back to center, back to a seat. Okay. Posturing in a seated position. When you are practicing breathing, remember this. If you pick up books on pranayama, what you see is a very like you see like full lotus or half lotus postures. Those are not easy to get into. Not everybody can get into it, right? So here's a general rule about setting up a breath practice. Set up a breath practice in a posture that allows you to access all parts of the breath. So you experience the back, you experience the side, we're going to do the front part of the breath. Your job and as a practitioner, as a teacher, is to figure out where is that posture where the most capacity to breathe is. That posture could be on the back, laying down. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be seated. You do not have to do these practices in a seated posture. You can do it standing, you can do it sitting on a chair, on the floor, or laying down on the back. So that's the number one rule. Just remember that. You don't want to create restriction in the breathing. Figure out where the most amount of freedom is, and that becomes your posture. Here's a quick example of it. So when you're seated, right, most of you will sit like this. Sometimes we don't even have a block, so we'll sit like that. Okay. So if you are sitting on a block, actually I invite you to take the block out. Come to a seat like that. Because I want you to notice this, the least restrictive posture, right? And what happens is we don't sit nice and straight all the time. So what we do is we do this. And we drop our head because we have phones these days, right? Now I want you to do that and I want you to breathe. Try to breathe to the best capacity you can. So notice again, awareness. What is the quality of this breath? Is it coming to you easily, freely, or do you have to work for it? Yeah, you have to work for it, right? All right. So let's do a very subtle adjustment, not much. What we're going to do is what we tell every time is just going to come to a nice, comfortable, straight spine, right? So it's like coins stacked on top of it. Relax your shoulders, relax your shoulders, relax your elbows. So if they're straight, stretched out, I want you to pull the elbows back in. Do the same now. Okay, breathe. Slightly easier, much easier than the last one. Take a few rounds of breath here. We're going to change something else to free this up even more. Okay, better than the last one. Okay, let's make it even, continue to move on. So what I'll do is I'll take either a block or a bolster, and I'm going to sit on and block or bolster. Okay, all right, good. So here's the thing: anytime your sits bones are going to be above your knees, you're going to find more freedom in the breath, just anatomically. Okay, because your psoas muscles are going to release. Even when you have somebody on their back, instead of having their legs stretched out, if you make them bend their knees or slide something under their knees like a pillow, you're going to release the psoas and automatically the breathing capacity is going to improve 10-20%. Okay, so this is the posture. To free this posture completely, here's what I do. I think you already done it. So what you do is you create a wide stance. So I'm going to move my left knee out, left leg in, and then I'm going to widen and see if I can create like a tripod like that. May not be restrictive for some. Some people can do it, some may not be able to do it. But I find this posture to be much more relaxing. Now, I want you to breathe again with a nice straight spine. And notice, right? We're going through this journey and finding the posture for us where we find the most amount of freedom in our breath. For me, it's this posture. For you, it could be something else. But just you have a comparative benchmark now where we started off on the ground, slouched. Now to a nice lifted seat with our knees below our hip crease, or at least at the same level as our hip crease, not the other way around. And that allows a lot of this upper body freedom to breathe. Everybody good with me? All right. So I want you to begin to experience a few things now. So keep your eyes closed. Begin to breathe in and out through the nose. And notice how slow can you breathe, okay? So I want you to bring the breath as low in the body as you can. Now, often we call this the belly breath, right? We say, hey, breathe into the belly. So I want you to try and do that. I want you to breathe into the belly. And feel free to place one hand on the belly if that helps you ground. Concentrate on breathing into the belly. And when you do that, hopefully your belly should move out as you're breathing in. All right, let's do something together. Everybody breathe out. Take a slow, deep breath in. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, again, breathe in slowly. Breathe in 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathe out 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, everybody sets that pace, that rhythm is comfortable for everyone. Okay, great. Now, I want to focus on the exhalation. I want to show you something which is pretty subtle but very powerful. So, everybody breathe out. Okay, breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Breathe out more. All right, breathe in again. Take a nice free breath in at your pace. Good. Breathe out slowly. Exhale out, exhale out. Once you've exhaled out, I want you to pause. And I want you to exhale more. Okay, breathe in and out. Okay, open your eyes. Was everybody able to exhale out more? Okay, great. Everybody's nodding. What happened when you exhaled out more? Anatomically, what did you experience?
Slight
Resistance. Okay, what did you have to engage something to exhale out more? You had to engage the core. Well, first of all, you had exhale out. Normally, when you're breathing, you exhale out. You don't do that core pulling in, right? Because you have, what this exercise shows you is that you still have air in the lungs that I won't call it stale air, right? Some people say, oh, it's stale air. You don't know that, right? You don't know which part of the body, first of all, where anatomically it is. But you do know that if it's really a deep, low lung breath, yeah, there's a good chance that it's going to be trapped there because you're not exhaling out. Your next breath is going to come in, you're going to inhale. Anatomically may not happen that way. Nobody knows it. You can't measure it like you can visualize or image it, right? You can't do that. But you do realize that in normal breathing, you're not exhaling out completely. You're not emptying out completely. And the reason for that is if you need to empty out completely, you have to what? Pull your core in. You have to push the diaphragm up. Okay? Because the diaphragm is really partitioning your rib cage. So if you take your fingers, you find your ribs, find the center of the ribs right here, okay? And then go around, follow that low ribs, keep going, and somewhere back here, you're going to lose track of it, right? Because you have floating ribs down here. But from there, all the way back here, right? If I keep following it all the way back here, that's where your diaphragm connects to your spine. So it's a partition between your thoracic and your abdominal cavity, right? As you're breathing in, so here's that diagram, right? So below it is where your diaphragm is, right? Now the primary muscle is shown right here. When you're inhaling, that's what's happening. Your diaphragm is getting pulled down, which is expanding your rib cage and your lungs. And the air actually is coming in and filling into these little pockets called the alveolar sacs. These are little tiny balloons. In fact, you have 300 million of these roughly around balloons. And if you actually open that, each one, and lay it down on the floor, that's the size of a tennis court. So that much space, the size of a tennis court, space is available for you to breathe. Every single breath you take in, if this is that alveolar floor, this is our lungs. When the breath comes in, it's absorbed through this much space and then goes into the blood vessels because each alveolar sac is surrounded by tiny capillaries. And this is how it actually goes through the wall, oxygen molecule. An oxygen molecule is absorbed by the hemoglobin in the red blood cell and then gets transported through the heart. Heart pumps it out, and that's how the oxygen actually goes everywhere in our body, right? And the reverse happens when you're ready to release the CO2. Imagine the CO2 will come through the wall of the alveoli into the lungs, and the diaphragm then what? Lifts up, compresses the lung literally, and pushes that air out. So when you did that exercise, remember what you also did, you actually exercised the diaphragm a little bit more. Because normally you wouldn't do that. But in order to strengthen the diaphragm, release all the air out. So this is what in breathwork we teach exhalation before we teach inhalation. We teach the students how to effectively empty the lungs out. Because unless you do that, you're not going to be able to fill in. Okay? All right. So now let's do all right, let me finish this because since I have this here. Why do we emphasize low breathing so much? What is the anatomical, physiological reason for teaching people to breathe into the low lungs? When we say belly breathing, by the way, everybody hopefully understands that we don't breathe into the belly. There's no organs in the belly, right? It's just the correct word for that is a diaphragmatic breathing. Okay, the correct word is do diaphragmatic breath work. But we have, for the lack of correct anatomical term, we keep saying belly breathing. But hopefully everybody understands there's no air in the belly, by the way. Okay. So the reason for that is because you have 18 times more blood vessels surrounding the lower part of your lungs versus the upper part of the lungs. And you have 3.5 times more oxygen absorption capacity in the low lungs versus the upper lungs. So now, from an energy currency point of view, you get more bang for your buck, right? So you spend less energy but you get more out of it if you're breathing into the lower lungs. It's 18 times more blood vessels, 3.5 times more capacity to breathe, or oxygenation capacity to breathe, when you are engaging the lower lungs versus the upper lung. This is why there's so much emphasis on, and there's other reasons too, by the way, because a lot of our lymphatic systems are situated lower in the lungs. And our breathing is a pump for the lymphatic system. So lymphatic system is like a drainage, right? It doesn't have its own circulatory system. It doesn't have its own pump. It's the lungs that are the pumps for the lymphatic system. And the lower you breathe, the more effective that pump works. So that's why your body's ability to clear toxins improves dramatically if you are breathing into the low lungs. Secondly, if you look at just, I'm just taking that example and drawing a geometric figure with it. So it's this conical figure that you have, which your lungs are in. There's a lot of freedom here, right? You can do that. There's not much freedom up here. First of all, the lungs are quite narrow up there, right? And there's not much freedom in the upper lungs that you get in the lower lungs. So these are some of the reasons why breathing into your low lungs is emphasized so much, and actually is the right way for you to breathe more effectively. Okay. All right. We worked on exhalation. I want to show you something on the inhalation now. Okay. So come back to your comfortable seat. You feel free to stand or do anything you want. If you're feeling uncomfortable, come to a stand as well. So you're going to breathe now. Place one hand on your belly, other one on your heart. Right. You're going to start to breathe low into the belly. So as you breathe in, inhale. Fill in as much as you can. And then gently exhale out. We're going to do this together. So everybody, wherever you are, exhale out. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, breathe in. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Breathe more. Breathe out. Let it go. Good. Breathe in. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Breathe in more. Breathe out. Let it go. Good. You're going to do that one more time. Notice what happens. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Breathe in more. And breathe out. Let it go. Okay. What's going on? So we did the exhalation, and you were actually able to exhale more by engaging the diaphragm. Then you did the inhalation. I told you to take a full breath. You all did. But then the instruction was pause and breathe in more. And every one of you was able to breathe in more. And what happened during that period? Chest lifted, shoulders lifted, right? So because you didn't have much capacity to breathe there, but as the breath was building up, and again, anatomically, this is not how it happens, but just for visualization purposes, I'm teaching you that you're breathing, your instruction was to breathe from the belly. So you started filling in, and you thought, okay, I am done, I'm full. Yet, there was like 10 to 20% more capacity for you to breathe. And for that, what you had to engage was what? The upper part of the lungs. So in fact, in my experience, what I have noticed is people don't know how to use the upper part of the lungs. We actually have very good belly breathers. Although we kept saying people, okay, anxious breathers. No, I think not. Most of the people, at least who practice yoga, are very effective on engaging their belly and the diaphragm to breathe. What they struggle with is how to use that last part of the breath, which is, if you notice, like deep sea divers, when they train, they actually will breathe and then continue to fill. And if you notice their procedures, they will continue to fill as high as they can. By even, they will like eat the breath literally. and then it will fill these parts of the lungs as well. So I wanted to show you that because that remains a lot of unused space in the breath, and that's available for you to breathe. Okay, so now let's tie that up together. You experience the back, you experience the side ribs, okay? You experience the belly, you experience the chest rising up. More so when I asked you to take the final sip of breath, right? You were actually able to lift the chest up and the collarbones up. Okay, how do you tie all of this together? So I'm going to show you that these three compartments of the breath, the belly, okay, the chest and the back, and the final one is the top here on the collarbone. How do you merge them together? First of all, how do you isolate them, right? How do you bring them together? And then finally, how do you bring them together in a seamless fashion? So without even instructing somebody to breathe here or breathe there, is there one clear instructions that you can give in your classroom that will automatically ensure that your students are engaging all three compartments of the breath? Okay, ready to do that? All right. So we're going to come to a comfortable seat. Now remember, what we're doing is we're combining all the three parts together. Okay. All right, come to a nice comfortable seat. Place one hand on your belly, the other one on your heart. First, we will isolate, we will partition the breath. So only using the container of our diaphragm or belly, I would say, okay? So pay attention to your breathing, and I invite you to breathe only in the belly. We do this as a group, as a community. So wherever you are, breathe out. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Let the belly expand. And then breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Let the belly relax. Again, breathe in 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Breathe into the belly. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Feel the rise of the belly. Chest is relatively relaxed. Breathe out. Now set this rhythm at your own pace. The chest remains relatively still. All the movement that is happening is in the belly. We're going to breathe again as a community. Wherever you are, breathe out. Begin to breathe into the belly for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe into the belly. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now breathe in. Start breathing into the belly for 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep going. Let the chest rise. Breathe more. And then breathe out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to breathe maybe 60, 70% of the breath into the belly. The remainder, 30 to 40% is going to be in the chest. And I'm going to cue that for you, right? So the length is going to increase now to, let's say, 5 or 6 count. Breathe out wherever you are. Breathe in. Let's do 5, 4, 3. Let the breath rise to the chest. 2, 1. And let go. Breathe out. Exhale out slowly. Nice. Let's create a smooth transition from the belly to the chest. Breathe in. 5, 4, 3. Breathe into the chest. 2, 1. Exhale out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Keep going. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Set your pace. Practice for a few rounds. So belly is moving, chest is moving as well. First belly, then chest. So begin to layer, okay? You're layering two parts, belly and chest together. As you pull the breath higher up in the body, see if you're lifting your shoulders too much. Try to relax those shoulders. Try to expand the rib cage and the collarbones. Continue to breathe, focus. As you lift your chest, now begin to notice the shoulder blades and the back as well. Can you feel some air there? So continue to increase the count and see if you can go to our 6 counts and start to engage those back muscles to breathe back there. They're going to bring the last part in now. So keep breathing, keep your eyes closed. If you need to adjust your seat, feel free to do so. We're going to layer everything up. So now comes the last part. So you know the belly, you know the chest, you know the upper back. Now comes the final sip of breath. You know that we have very little capacity in the top. So we're going to engage that. So everybody, up to a comfortable seat. Breathe out. Begin to breathe in. Fill the belly first for 6, 5, 4. Breathe into the chest. 3, 2, 1. Pause. Breathe in more. Breathe out. Exhale out. We're going to take that pause out as well. Don't worry. Breathe out. Breathe in again. Starting from the belly. Breathe in for 6, 5, 4. Breathe into the chest. 3, 2, 1. Pause. Breathe in more. And exhale out. All right, we'll do that one more time before we take the pause away, okay? Breathe in, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, breathe in more, and breathe out. I know that's not comfortable, just breathe out. Good. Very good. Beautiful. Now, here we go. Breathe in very slowly and merge everything together. I'm not going to have you pause, but I'm going to add a count. So everybody, wherever you are, exhale out. Good. Breathe in. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let go. Breathe out. Very good. Exhale out. Again. Breathing in. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. Let it go. I know that's not very comfortable. Just get used to it. You'll find your rhythm. Breathe out. Very good. Again, breathe in. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. Good. Keep your eyes closed. Now, this is your practice for the next 5 minutes. Go with your pace. Harness that full, complete breath. And you feel free to change the posture. In fact, a lot of you are coming on your back. So why don't everybody come onto your back? Let's experience it that way because that will give you the most freedom. Now, bend your knees. Here we go. Bend your knees. Yes, keep your knees bent. I mean, you can even have the pillow under if you want to. There we go. That's it. That's going to release the psoas or keep your knees bent. Now, same instructions, right? You're going to fill in from the bottom all the way to the top. It's a great posture to even feel the back breathing because your back is going to begin to press against the floor when you try to breathe there. So slow it down, breathe from the bottom, filling all 3 containers. All right, we'll do this together as a group. Okay, everybody exhale out. Begin to breathe, begin to fill your belly. Begin to lift that chest up. Breathe in. Let the breath build up. Bring it to the collarbone, bring it to the back, and let it go. Breathe out. Beautiful. There we go. Feel that wave rising from the bottom to the top. Begin to breathe in. Breathe into the belly. Breathe into the chest. Breathe into the back. Breathe into the collarbones. And breathe out. Exhale out. Good. Notice that your belly is going to pull just in. As you pull that breath higher and higher up in the body, sometimes the belly may just suck in just a little bit. So exhale out another time. Go ahead. Everybody exhale out. Begin to breathe. Fill the belly. Let the breath rise to the chest, to the back, to the collarbone, and then exhale out. Just let it go. Good job. There we go. Just drop that exhalation. No need to control it. Breathe in. Fill the chest, fill the collarbones, all the way up. Beautiful. Let it go. Just drop that breath. All right. So here's how it's going to sound like. Begin to breathe. Exhale out. I'm breathing through the mouth. You breathe through the nose. I'm just making it audible. Breathe in. Let it go. Beautiful. Breathe in. Breathe out. You know the 3 parts. Continue to breathe now. Slow, rhythmic breathing. Pay attention to the breath. You may drift away, just stay with the practice. Sometimes it's relaxing enough that you're going to fall asleep. I want you to consciously put some effort right now in breathing, letting the belly rise, letting the chest rise, the back pressing against the floor, collarbone rising, and then release everything. Good. Now, doing this every time is a bit complicated, right? You have to partition all three containers and you have to focus on the three. Is there one single instructions that will allow you to seamlessly integrate all of this together without having to think about the belly, the chest, the collarbone? Okay, so here's what we will do. You all know where the diaphragm is sitting. Okay, I explained that to you. You know in your body where the diaphragm is. I want you to, in your mind's eye, visualize your diaphragm right now. Is this parachute shaped muscle sitting right underneath your lungs? Visually make a connection with that. Okay? In your mind's eye, visualize this dome shaped muscle. Now, on the next in breath, I want you to consciously, with effort, pull that muscle down as you breathe in. So as you're breathing in, descend with effort this diaphragm down. How low can you pull that? As you do that, you're going to start to fill all three containers. As you're ready to let it go, consciously, slowly release the diaphragm. Let it ascend back to its relaxed state. And there you're going to empty out all three containers. Right? Keep your awareness hooked to the diaphragm. As you breathe in, descend the diaphragm down, consciously pulling the center of the diaphragm down towards the pelvic floor, filling all three containers. And then as you're ready to let go, slowly begin to release the diaphragm back up. Good. Keep your awareness to the diaphragm. Pull the diaphragm down with that in breath. Slowly. Keep pulling it down as you fill in. Once you fill in completely, begin to release. Slowly let it go. I want some of you to put a little bit more effort. So pull the diaphragm down. I know it may not be very comfortable for you, but I want you to feel the rise of the belly, the rise. There we go, rise of the chest. And then letting it go. Beautiful. Good. Now everybody's there. Good job. Keep your awareness glued to the diaphragm. Notice all three containers are filling on their own. You don't have to put your effort there. Your effort should be on the diaphragm. You can do a mental count as well if that helps you to focus. Pulling the diaphragm down with the in breath, releasing the diaphragm back up with the out breath. Take 5 more breaths, complete rounds. And after you're done with your 5 rounds, turn to whichever side feels comfortable. Actually, before you do that, check which nostril is more open. And turn to the side of the closed nostril. Sorry, turn to the side of the open nostril. Very sorry. So the right nostril is more open, turn to your right. If your left nostril is more open, turn to the left. And slowly begin to transition back to that comfortable seat. We have a final round of breathing left, then we are done. So you're going to come back, position yourself to that seated posture. And once you come up, notice if that nostril that was closed has opened up. Just take a quick check. Okay, back to where we began in a seated posture. And now you know how to engage all three parts by just focusing on the diaphragm, right? So inhaling, pulling the diaphragm down, exhaling, letting the diaphragm relax back up. Okay? And remember, we started with our breath counting exercise. We're going to close with our breath counting exercise. Okay? And now you're going to consciously breathe and slow that breath down. You know the correct diaphragmatic breathing. So get situated, close your eyes. We're just going to count the number of breaths for 1 minute. So everybody, wherever you are, exhale out completely. And here we go. Begin to inhale. And stop. Everybody has a number? Take a piece of paper and write your number. Different side. Yeah. You didn't get the initial measurement, but you had the final one. So just notice the difference between where you started and where you're ending. And I started at 12. and I'm ending at 2.5. We started at 11, we're ending at 4.5. All of you have improved that, right? So just a subtle art of becoming conscious of the breath and then being able to know how to use the full lung capacity, because you have a lot of lung capacity. You can decrease the pace at which you breathe. You are capable of breathing at like the 2.5 breaths a minute, 3 breaths a minute. Slowing the breath down. Here's my final closure. So there's a very interesting relationship that the ancient gurus, the yoga teachers, the masters who are building this science, they learn through witnessing the animal kingdom, because they realize that the animals that were breathing the slowest were living the longest. So look at the giant tortoise. It breathes around 4 breaths a minute and lives for more than 150 years. On the other side, if you look at our best friends, dogs, who are the most active, they breathe the hardest and fastest and lives what, 10, 12 years, 15 years at most. So there is a direct relationship between how slow, how calm you breathe. And of course, you can't do that every single moment. You need to be able to modulate the breath. And this is where the practices are, because you need to know how to use the breath. Those athletes that we talked about, the Olympic athletes, they need to use every single ounce of breath that they can to optimize performance. And that's why they have to breathe a certain style that may not be very calming, but they need energy. So they need to harness the power of that breath to use that. But calming breath, slow breathing leads to a longer life. That's probably reason enough to practice it. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it.